Hello everyone and welcome to the first session for our HP UFT training. We will get started in today's session with the tool straight away, and before that we will look at a specific scenario that will help us learn automation testing by using HP Unified Functional Testing. So the whole focus on these demos for the today and tomorrow is going to be around how you, as a very basic level IT professional or someone who's seeking to make their career progress in the quality assurance field, are able to easily learn this tool and take that learning into your projects, into your interviews, and be able to secure a good job or grow in the career field of automation testing. So as we go along in this session, team, I will give enough breaks in between where I'll start taking questions from the large audience that we have out here. And once we get the session moving, you'll start seeing a lot of your questions will get answered through the session itself. All right, a lot of your questions will get answered through it. So team, the concept is very simple. For this specific training or any trainings that we typically conduct at ITeLearn, we focus a lot by the project-based approach. So when I say project-based approach, instead of taking and explaining a concept, what that concept is, we go about explaining a project, like assuming that you've joined a testing team which requires you to do some specific testing and also hopefully do some automation testing. For that purpose, how do we go about doing it? As we keep executing the projects, I'll keep teaching you the small concepts, the scripting that is required, and all those things that are needed to be able to execute it. So we will do between 3 to 4 projects that I will be showing you how we go about executing through this training. The first one will be very basic. The first project is going to be basic. It's going to highlight a lot of concepts around automation testing, and that will get our bearings correct in terms of what is automation testing all about? Why is it essential? How do we go about building a great automation test suite? So for the first project, what I'm going to be doing is I'll go back to my Google Drive and create a new folder. There is a folder already out here called UFT Live June 2016. In this folder, I'm going to create a new subfolder and I'll call this as the project 1. All right. Now, to be able to execute a project, we need an application team. That's the most important thing. Okay, so we need to understand what the application is and what it does. So for this, I'll create a simple Google Doc. And let's talk briefly about the application under test, and we'll give an overview for it. All right, so you will understand what kind of an application we're taking, because one of the most fundamental concepts for any test engineer is what is one of the most essential skill that a software QA engineer needs, team. Can someone tell me? What do you think is the most essential skill? You're trying to test something, right? So what is it that is most essential? Just think, there's no right or wrong answer. There are a lot of things that are important. So what could they be? So please do use the Q&A section to put your answers, as there are multiple. I won't be able to unmute you right now, but as the questions are needed, I will be doing it at that time. Yes, team, come on. What could be one of the most essential skills that a test engineer, a QA engineer should possess? Attention to detail, good one. Next. Analysis, yes. Because I got your answer, I'll come to that. Negative thinking to get positive results, yes. I'm just putting it in a different way. To identify bugs, yes. The intent is to make sure that the application is working correct. It is defect free, it is bug free, correct? But to be able to go and say that, yes, I know what is correct and what is not, you need to know one thing very perfectly well. That is the requirements or the functional knowledge of that application. you need to have a strong understanding of the functionality. So the functionality, the functional knowledge becomes very key, team. Now, as we said, for the project one, we will be taking a sample application and working on it. Let me quickly introduce you to the application that we'll be using for it. This application name is called Interact, team. Interact is primarily an interactive app for trainers. So if you go to interact.com, I will also put this in the chat. So if you're someone who's watching the video and not the live, you can look at the URL out here. It is like Interact, but instead of the C, there is an F there. It is called Interact, which is an interactive app for trainers or for trainings. So this application primarily revolves around the fact that the communication platform that we currently use between a trainer and a trainee are various modes. When I, as a trainer, need to communicate with my audience, I do send them messages. I do send them updates. Updates could be things like when is the session going to happen? What is it that I'm going to cover? Or if I want them to do an exercise before the next training, or if I want them to watch a video and so on. So there is a constant need for communication. You will notice that a lot of times this communication will get failed. When I use concepts like an email or text message or WhatsApp or Facebook, they're all cluttered and each of them have their own challenges. My email might get lost in the bunch of emails that you get. Facebook may be too much social and you may not log in regularly into it. A text may be too intrusive for you, or be calling you might not hit you at the right time. So all these issues will happen. While at the same time, communication is still critical. Sorry for the background noise, team. There's a fire truck going by my place. Just give me a quick second. Sorry, that was pretty loud, I guess, right on the background. Sorry, team. All right. So this is the challenge that we face as trainers in today's world. And to do this, communication which is critical, as it is important not only for the trainers to communicate, it is also important for the trainees to get timely information, or we land up with these kind of statements. Oops, I read your text too late, or I did not know there was a demo. My WhatsApp has too many groups and so on. Or they don't even sometimes remember the website where we're putting the information. So all these challenges keep coming up, team. So to be able to help resolve this issue, we built an application, a very simple application wherein there are 3 sections to it. The first section is all about setting up the institute. It just takes under 5 minutes to set up an institute, and we log in as an institute admin at that time. Once we log in as an institute admin, we go about creating new courses. So a training institute like ITeLearn, for example, could have multiple courses that we offer. So we go about adding new courses to our platform, and then we go about adding trainers and link them to specific courses. Sorry again, team. That was so loud, the fire engine in the background. Hope all is okay out here. There were a couple of them which went so. Alright, so we add a trainer and link them to the course. Then we go about adding the trainees to that specific course. The idea for doing this first step is to set up the institute. And once we do that, a trainer is able to log in and be able to send a quick notification. Very simple message. It's just like an email notification. It has a subject, it has a body, it has a course name, and it has a unique thing called as a category. Category is a quick representation of identifying what kind of an information is being sent. Is it a reminder? Is it a to-do thing? Or are we providing some tips, an exercise, an event? Is it an advertisement? Is it a map of where the training is going to occur, a link, and so on? So multiple categories could be added to the messages. This way, when the trainee looks at the message, is able to quickly detect as to what this message is about, what is the trainer trying to notify, and be able to look at all of them as their convenience on different platforms. One, that notification goes out as an email. Second, it also comes up as a notification and alert on your mobile device. Third, they can also log in to the web-based application and see all those notifications out there. So this way, the trainee is able to get a good insight into what is happening very, very quickly, very comfortably, and immediately. So the trainee gets to read what message is and act instantly on it. And the initial challenges that I showed you, most of them hopefully will get resolved when this usage of this tool keeps increasing. Now, so we have developed the web-based app for it. Interact.com is an application where you can go, is the website where you can go and get more information, the frequently asked questions, and about Interact. At the moment, this application is taking applications from trainers for the beta version, and once they're able to come in and become a beta user, as soon as the beta version is ready for use, they're going to get invited to start using. Now for this application, the app is currently installed on interact.com/app. That is where the app is. So it is not publicly available, team. We have not put this in the main website, so you won't see it out there. The user is able to right now log into it and be able to work on it. We're going to look at the development version, and we're going to start using it for our testing purpose as well. So this is the regular public app, which is under use by about 400 students as of now globally. We will be able to get the new version up. It is still it's in kind of a pre-beta version, but I will share all this information as we go along with you, the URL for the development and so on. So the functionality is very simple, team. We try and log in as 3 different roles. Role number 1 is an admin. So if I log in as an admin, for example, and since this session is being recorded, you will get access to the video again, and you are able to go back and look at how the application behaves. Okay, so you can play around with it too. I'll share some test credentials also as we go along. That way you're able to work on it. So here ITeLearn is the administrator, and under this administration you'll see the different notifications that are being sent by different trainers for that specific use. All right. In this, you will also notice the courses. There is a second tab where the different courses are being put out here. So for example, we have in the UFT live training, we have added a course there. We also can look at the different trainers that are currently there or add new trainers. So the add trainer is a feature that will let us add new trainers into the institute. And the trainees is where you will notice we can post, we can see the list of all trainers and to which course they belong. As we go along, you will see that a lot of these trainees have started to update their profile pictures and so on and all. So right now, this is the application as a view from an institute admin. Now let's log out from this and briefly look at a trainer. So once I log in as a trainer, let me quickly see which credential I can use for the trainer. Okay, I'm going to try this one, team. Cool. So now I have logged in as a trainer, and trainer has a different role. the workflow is different, and you will notice that the features are also different. The trainer's main purpose is to be able to send a notification. All they need to do is be able to select what notification they want to sell. Depending on the course that they're linked to, they get to choose what course that they want to send to. And let's say that I just want to do a simple category of a reminder, and I'll send the title that day 01 has just started. Since we don't have too many users on the UFT training or trainees out there, I'm able to do this, so it will not really go to anyone. And then write a message, session is on, join using your go-to webinar link. All right, and then I'm going to save this message. So once I save it, I'm able to go back and look at the notification which is saved. It is not yet broadcasted. It is just in a draft stage. Now let me go back and quickly edit it, and I'll add one more thing to it. And I'll say it's an event. So there are multiple categories that I'm able to add to it. And also I will say that it is important, because a lot of times what happens, team, even I register for many events that I go across, but I don't get a chance to really attend. So another 2 minutes on this application, team, and then I'm able to show you how it's going to work. So now it is saved, and I can go ahead and broadcast this. So once I click on broadcast, the message gets broadcasted or sent to all the trainees that are associated with that specific program. And they would get the notifications when they log in as a trainee. They will be able to see it on their web, on their email, and also they will be able to see it on their mobile app devices. We have right now built it successfully for Android. We're coming up with iOS also very soon. All right, so that is a quick overview of the application, team. I hope all of you have got a decent idea of what the application does. One of the most important things that we kept in our mind when we did this is to ensure that it is not complicated at all for users. It has to be very simple, and it solves a very specific purpose. And that is the reason that though the admin and trainer have a few features, the trainees have very limited features. All they see is the view notifications, and they're able to take an action based on what they get as a message from their trainers. Hafusud ITeLearn, sorry that you got cut out for some time and you have to come back. So the video will be available. You can go back and look at it. But primarily I gave an application walkthrough for this one. Now that I've shown you this, team, let's talk about it more from a testing purpose. Okay. So when we go about creating a project in the document that we're talking about, we will have to identify specific test scenarios. Right? We have to say what kind of a test scenarios or test cases we need to create. What is a test case or test scenario, team? Not a definition wise, but more of what do you understand is a test case or a test scenario. So team, question and answer is a section where you can start putting your answers to this. So what is a simple test case or a scenario, team? And while you do that, I'm going to create a new Google Sheet and call this as test cases. It says these are interrupt test cases. Interrupt test cases. All right. So in principle, very simple. They are the definitions, or they are the step-by-step process through which a user performs a specific activity on the application, and those are the things that we use to build to ensure that all the possible scenarios are getting covered of how a user can navigate through an application, a workflow, or a functionality, which could be from a small to an extremely large scenario. And we know towards the end of this execution as to if there are any loopholes, there are any defects or bugs that we need to report into the development team to get it fixed. It is primarily a very structured approach in a very step-by-step manner on how we go about looking at a scenario. So now for every test case, there will be something called as a test case ID. It is a unique identification to link that to a scenario or a test case. That way I know that yes, we are trying to know which test case. So when I say that user login, so I'll just call this as IAF, which is the name of the application, underscore, it's a test case, underscore 001. I can also link it to a specific module. Like in this case, you saw that there are modules which is user login could be a module, an admin could be a module, a trainer or a trainee. All this could be divided into different modules. Modules are nothing but the functionalities of an application that can be grouped together. When put together, they build a larger application, but independently they have a specific meaning to it. They have a specific functional flow to it. So in our case, when you saw the walkthrough of the application, you would have noticed that we're talking about the user login, or we're talking about admin portal, or we're talking about a trainer or a trainee, right? Now we can talk about the description of this test case, and we can write a test step to it. Like I said, each test case we want to make sure has a very definitive step to it. Okay, simple user login is what I'll call this first one. Okay, now the reason this is important is comes to the next point in terms of an automation or any testing team application and a test. I'll just call this as overview. Right, this is a project one overview. Documentation becomes the other very key element for our testing team. The functional knowledge is important, but also documentation is very critical. Why is documentation important, team? Very simple. You'll work in a team of multiple test engineers. Rarely you may be the only one. Today you're working with 10 people, and you will write a test case in a specific defined format, and that will get viewed by someone else across the globe on a different in a different country altogether. They have to have the same understanding as you're trying to provide. And tomorrow you may move out of one project, someone else may come and replace you into this, or you may move into a different higher level project. At that time also, the new resources are able to quickly go back, look at what is there as part of the application, what have we documented. So all these test artifacts, as we call, the complete documentation is critical. So very structurally, very simple manner, we'll have to start putting that. It should be easy for others to understand. So manually, are we able to understand or not? That becomes key. Now, very quickly, team, I'm going to write a few steps for how we did a login. All right, maybe about 3-4 steps. What did we do? To first thing, we went to go to the URL. Then we entered username. Then we entered a password, and we clicked on login. And we ensured to see that login happens. Correct? This is the high level functionality for any test case. Now, if I give you this information, are you able to, as a manual test engineer, go and execute it? If I just give you this information, will you be able to execute it at your end? There's a yes or no team to it. There's an answer, yes or no, simple yes or no. That's all I'm looking. Do you understand what to do? Do you have all the information that is needed? Yes. Yes, is it? Okay, so I'm saying now, yes, but what is the URL? Do you have an answer to it? What is the username? What is the password? We do not have all the information, team. You need information to test this against. You are going to be running the steps, right? But sometimes some of the steps require your test data. What will we use to test it? So in this case, let's say my testing is being done on interact.com/app. For username, let's say I use something like Karthik Kosireddy. Okay. Password, let us say I put KK at interact. And do I need anything as a test data to click on login? Yes or no? No, we don't need it out here because login is a button. You'll be able to clearly see it on the screen and you're able to log in. And you're going to ensure to see that login happens, right? For this, maybe we will have something to test which we don't know yet. Now, this is a scenario and this is one test case. Now, I could have many variations for the same test case. So this is my main heading out here. All right. And here is my first test case. I'll just give a little few different colors team. That way we're able to easily recognize the differences from each of them. And this is another test case. So here, instead of user login alone, I'll say user login logout. It's a new scenario. I want to log in, but I also want the user to log out. And this way you'll notice team, there's so many combinations for a single test case that could be generated. And it is important. You're not just going to do what is provided alone. So you have to make sure that the different types of users come, they do different activities, and you will have to conduct the same. So the difference between the first test case and second step test case is just there's a logout. All right. There are more things. This forgot password. What if you enter wrong data? How do you capture that information and so on? All right. So now these are the test cases, two test cases that we created. Are you all able to understand these test cases as a manual test engineer? Are you able to understand it? If I give it to you, will you be able to execute it at your end? Yes. Now it should be okay, right? Because I provided you all the information, the URL, the walkthrough of the application, you should be able to do it manually. Now, if I have to teach a tool to do the same, how do I do that? Why should I teach a tool to do the same things, and how will I go about doing it? Let me quickly open up the testing tool in the meanwhile in the background, and then we'll also work with the paint to continue my trial. Okay, I'm gonna reduce this a little bit. I'll pop up. Okay. Sorry, team. All right. Very simple, team. So why should we be doing automation? That is number one. What could be the reasons, team? Just think. Manually, if I do, what is the challenge and what is automation all about? A simplest example for us, team, is I can go and send a note to my friend via post, correct? But then I can also use email to do it. What is the advantage? Advantage is it is faster, it is more effective, and I can keep reusing it as I keep going along. And you'll understand that it is more accurate because you can see exactly if it is getting delivered or not. We were using text messages earlier. Someone came in and created a WhatsApp. So they've automated a process and gave it a new flavor. Even more common example is a car manufacturing. Today, all these manufacturing plants have a line, a production line where the cars are being assembled, different parts of it. The chassis, the engine, the interiors, the complete body, all the finishing, the painting, all of these are being done by robots team. And you will notice that overall, the reason people go from manual to automation is so that things get more faster, they are more efficient, they can be reused over and over, and they do more accurately than a human. So simplest example is to run this test case. How long will it take for you to run the first test case, team? Just your estimate. You also have to mention the result if each of the steps worked or not, correct? Without mentioning the result, there is no point in testing. If you're not mentioning the result, that means we're really not testing it. How long will it take to execute test case 1? 5 minutes, 8 hours, few seconds, less than 5 minutes. Correct. It could take anywhere between 30 seconds to, let's say, 5 minutes. Just one test case, one set of test data to make sure everything is working correctly. It also depends on the speed of the application. Now, I am doing this with a script. The script may take, let's say, the manual testing is taking 5 minutes out here. Let's say the automation scripts that we run or write will take 4 minutes. And what it is, we will see it in very quickly. Is it too much of saving? It is faster, but is it significantly faster? We want a lot of difference out here. Why did I use less than? 5 minutes is greater than 4 minutes, and that's good. But then this is only one test case. What if I have 1,000 test cases? And this is again for one set of test data. What if I have 500 sets of different test data? That is when things will become more and more complicated and the need for automation becomes critical. All right. In this scenario, we will learn how we go about using a tool called HP Unified Functional Testing to help us get this benefit. All these functional testing tools, team, if you notice, have something very simple in them. And they are all about trying to, one, they are learning something. Whatever you teach about the test case, about how to go about, they will learn it. Two, they will understand and store the information that is needed for it. Then it will run and show the results. So you have to teach the tool, you have to store the information about what you've taught, the tool has to do it, and then it should be able to run whenever you want it to. And this is very important. And most of your focus is going to be on the area of teaching the tool. The tool is ready to learn. So you have to teach the tool what to do. There are two ways that you can train the automation tool. Again, reimagine the robot that I talked about in the um, manufacturing industry of, let's say, an automobile or a car, right? Someone has designed it. Someone said exactly where the door should go, how should the robot move, how should be able to fix it, where is it going to apply the glue, where is it going to put in the pivots or start screwing. Someone has explained that to it. So either we teach by using something called as a record, which is a great smart way, or we do by something called as custom scripts. And when I say custom scripts, team, it is not an industry word. It is just to say that I could be writing my own scripts to do it. There are two ways to do it. You can do a simple record, or you could do something called as custom scripts. I will start with showing you how a record is done. But then we will not focus too much on the record. The reason record and run is not very a benefit, team, is you need to do a lot of customizations. You want to make them to sit with you and make sure that tool is learning it correctly. So to do that, we will do a lot of scripting, we'll do a lot of programming, we'll do a lot of frameworks, and we'll understand how to work with different types of applications. For the first session, let's just look at what a record is and how it works. This is to understand the engine of this automation testing tool called HP UFT. How does it work? What happens? Then we can look at the next. All right. Any questions before we go to the tool and try and teach it how to go about automating or learning and then storing the information of what it has learned and then run a result? Run and show the results. Any questions that I can handle before I get there, please? All right, looks like we're good. So let's continue. And as we have questions, we'll go through it. All right. So now here is the UFT. It is a very, very simple Windows-based application team. Once you download the trial version, the way I showed you in the orientation session that I did on Monday, you will notice that a lot of information is available for you to be able to quickly go in and start working directly. You don't need to really master every portion of what you see. This is a tool that has been built over a period of many, many years, over a decade plus team. I would say decade and a half almost. So with this kind of features, you will notice that, oops, one second. Okay, you'll notice that there are many features that have been included. Oops, my mouse is going on its own. Have been included in this and so on. But let's keep things very simple, team. Let us focus on the core areas, and then as we keep going along, we will start to learn more and more new features. Okay, let me go back, erase this drawing and go back to my regular pen. Okay. All right. There is a menu bar, team. Typically, this is where you can start a lot of things from. Okay, and then you'll see the view finder where you can arrange certain portions of this windows in the HP Unified Functional Testing to make your whole process easy. Then there are multiple things with resources about how you can store information about what it has learned. Then there's a connection to the ALM, and then we have all the other things that will let us go about doing specific things. The first thing we do is we come to file and we start a new test. All right, let us not worry about anything else that you see right now apart from what we're trying to focus on. We go step by step and we make sure that we understand everything. Then you'll see the first option being a GUI test. GUI primarily stands for a graphical user interface. It is primarily a UI or UX, user interface or user experience based applications that you see on a Windows, a client server machine or a web-based browser and so on, where the user is able to perform certain activities that we need to test. So Interact is a GUI application. It's a web-based application. So there's a lot of visual things to it, and there's a user interface where a user is able to interact with the application using a keyboard and a mouse. Correct? So let's call this as IAFT test case underscore TC001, and I create a new test project through this. It will open up specific resources and will start to get into a mode where it can start acting and doing things for us. Now you'll notice that once we have gone to this new view, there is something on the left side called Solution Explorer. There is something in the middle, which is the bigger portion of the screen, which says IFT TC001. There's something called as Action 1 and a Start page. So I still have a lot of bad cough left with me, so I'm going to close the start page as of now. We don't need to focus on that. I want you to go through with me and be able to understand each and every concept as a focus thing. We will not try and switch between how we understand things. Okay. Now, you can also ignore this specific area, which is like a workflow, which is like a diagram based understanding of how the test works. We will spend all our time in this Action 1 window. This is where we go about writing our Vbscript. Now, for any program to work, team, it requires some kind of a programming language. All right. Now, any tool you take on a system, be it Microsoft Word, be it WhatsApp, be it UFT, be it Selenium, any program will require a coding language that it was used to build on. Now, for UFT, they have given access to change certain behaviors in the code using Vbscript. That is the language that UFT understands, that you can go learn it very easily, which will be part of what we will do in this training, and be able to apply it on it team. All right. Now, in this, all the section that you'll see that I'm talking about out here in UFT, all the section, all the focus is going to be on this window. That's where we'll do the UFT, VB scripting. Now, here is my UFT, and this I will move it to the left side. In fact, I will just align the window. And I have my Interact app that I will put it on the right side. Let me log out of this and show how the startup window is, so we get to see how it looks when we start up. Now, I have my test case team. This is what I need to be doing, correct? Go to the URL, enter username, enter password, click on login, not clicked on login, click on login, ensure to see that login happens. This is my simple test case. And I'm taking Karthik Kosiredi as a username and KK@Interact as the password. Now, how do I teach this tool to learn it? It's a very simple step team. You will notice a button called as record out here. Once you start to record, you will be able to go ahead and start showing it. But to do that, you want to make sure, oops, do I even have Internet Explorer on this system? Yes, I do, sorry. You want to make sure that you get your IE up, because record as a feature is something that we don't use it very frequently. 1 second, please. Smart screen filters, don't use recommended settings. Ask me later. Enable. I hope this works. I have not even tried record and run on this directly, but that's fine. We'll see. And I'm going to take it to interact.com/app. While that is happening, team, why is it taking time? Are you all able to hear me okay and see my screen? Because I see that there is it's loading pretty slow. Just want to make sure you are able to get everything. Can you all hear me and see my screen, team? Okay, thank you. Thanks for the confirmation. But I'm wondering, why is the application not loading here? It's fine on Firefox. Oops. Yeah, it's loading here. Why is it not loading on a... Okay, there you go. All right. So now we have our IE open and we have UFT open. All I have to do is click on this record button. You can also see it from the menu bar and say record. When we start recording, it will go into a stage where it is trying to learn. And now the option that we're choosing, team, is we'll try and record and run on any open browser. We are not asking it to open a browser and go to a URL. The application is already open, so that is why I choose the first option. Click on OK now. At this point, you will notice that a small tab has come up here where it is trying to record. All right. Now let me open up the complete application. I can't draw it here. So we can also see what is happening to the application. Well, this is happening. How do I get this up? Okay, let this be there. Let's get this window here. All right. So now you'll see that it has a stop and a pause, and it is ready to understand what we're trying to do. The first step is I'm going to click on login team. As soon as I click on login, do you see a piece of code that got generated out here? It has automatically learned something and stored that information in there. So it is very consciously looking at what is it that you're performing on this app and be able to handle that when we ask it to redo it. So here I'm going to go and click on username and enter Karthik Kosiredi. All right. Now let me go to the next password field and let's keep observing to the left side of the window what happens as I do it. When I do the next point, second point, you'll see some other information has come here. What is that? We're still yet to go in deep, do a deep dive and learn, and we'll become a master of this in the next 2-3 days, team. And I said that my password is kk@interact is the password. And I'll do a tab now. A third line has come. So for each step, you will notice a new line of code is getting automatically generated. And I'm not going to click on this cross because it may interrupt with my program. I'll just go ahead and click on this blue button, which I believe is a login, and see what happens on the web page. So I click on web button login, and we're waiting for the application. It says login authentication failed. I would have made some error. Either I don't have the right test data or my test case is not correct and so on. And that is fine. All right. That is totally okay. But I actually deliberately gave the wrong information team. I didn't give the right one because I'll show you why and how. All right. Now at this point, let's say, okay, I've done some automation. Let's stop this run and see what it has done. It has basically done two things, team. The whole code that you see, I'm going to go to the editor right here, right click on this gray area and not object properties. I just thought I'll increase the font very quickly. Let me go to options, startup, GUI testing, output pane, run session, no, text editor, and here font and colors, size is 10. I'll just increase the size to 13 team. That way we have a larger view for you. The primary purpose objective that this tool does is very simple. It learns two things, team. The first is where did a user do a certain activity and what did that user do. It could be a button, it could be a text field, it could be a link, it could be an image, it could be a drop-down list and so on. Various types of objects that you will see in a web-based application. What did the user do? User typically does something called as click, or they type something, or they try and let's just select a certain text from it, or copy some information, or even right click or left click that they could perform. All these operations that they do using a keyboard, a mouse and a monitor looking at a screen. Correct? These are the activities that a user does. UFT is only trying to focus on these things. Where did we do something? What did we do? By doing this, it will able to go and execute it again. So now I can go here and say, okay, you've learned something. Show me what did you learn. To do that, all I have to do is click on run. And I'll say run and wait for it to do something. There's the application. Application is out here. I'm going to close this. We don't need this. The yellow highlight is basically showing that Karthik, thank you for teaching me this. I am trying to run the first step. I am now showing you what I've learned and repeat it. But it is taking time. There could be an issue. Your second biggest trainer apart from me in this training team is this run error. This run error is basically the highlight of what issue is happening, and your ability to master this concept becomes very, very critical. Why is it important to master this? This is a communication from the tool to you, saying that as UFT, if I speak, Karthik, I cannot understand what you're saying. There is some issue. Can you help me with it? And it will very detailedly describe what it is. In this case, as simple as is, it tells me in the first two lines that it cannot do a certain thing. It tells me in the second one as to which line number it is working on. And it gives me a tip to say what could be a possible solution. Then it gives me an option, either stop this run, retry it, skip this step and go to the next one, or debug. Let us say line 1 where they click on login is not working. Why? Oh yes, I cannot see login button on the application. Then how can the tool see? Why? Because we're supposed to start from interrupt.com/app, right? This should be the starting point here. Now, while the session is still running, do you notice on the bottom left that the code is still running? Because it is waiting for user input. Stop, retry, skip or debug. We will look at these and we'll really master all of this as we go along, team. But very, very easy for us to understand and interact with this application. I'm going to say, you know what, retry now that I went there. Did you see it probably clicked on login? Then it's gone to step 2 as a highlight, step 3, step 4 and done. So looks like it did complete the execution. Did it do it correctly or not? Are you aware, team? Not necessarily, because it must have gone too fast, correct? So now comes our ability to go back and interact with this code and say, you know what, I want to see it step by step. There are ways that we can debug, but before we do that, this is the first thing. Now, here is the understanding of the code that it has understood. What is the code? This is the steps. That's it. Same thing, correct? So I'll put this here. I'll say, hey, these are the steps that you're trying to do, correct? So go to URL. Where are we going to the URL? This is done. Browser and URL are already open. That is like a test entry criteria. Then I'm saying enter a username. I'm going to cut this and put it here. When I entered the username, that is when you will see that this step was generated. You remember, all of you? Then when I entered the password, this was the step that it got generated. How do you know? We will know it as we go about in the next few sessions, team. When we look at the code, you'll know everything about it. Then you'll understand that the password is put out. Oh, this is no. Click on login. That step we missed. See, all of you remember? We missed the step called click on login. It was not there. We just said enter the username, enter password and so on directly. So this is, oops. Team, I know another couple of minutes to go. I do want to take questions, so I'll try and break after this by showing the object repository, and then we'll do that, do the other one. And finally, it is ensured to see that happens. This step is pending. We have still not done this. Let's assume we don't know how to do it as of now. Now let us go ahead and save this. So I'm going to click on save. As soon as I click on save, team, I get certain activity at the bottom. Oops, where is this? Okay, there you go. I just expanded. It says errors. Errors, like I said, like runtime errors or syntax errors, the different forms of errors we'll go through as we keep going along, is a warning or a message from the code from UFT to us saying, I cannot understand something. I need help to fix it. And it says on line 1 there's an error, line 12 there's an error, line 15 there's an error, and so on. The reason it is saying that is all that the code that it generated is in a way that UFT can understand. Now, if I go and put my English out here, English is not a language that UFT can understand directly. There's a specific format. Can you see, for example, browser, page, link, click, and within brackets, within double quotes, there's something else out here. So we are putting information in a different format altogether. This becomes a user comment, link or button. This becomes a user commenting. So to do that, all I need to do is do a control M at the beginning of it. It'll put a single quote to that sentence and notice immediately it becomes green. Now, you remember line 1 had a issue. Now I'm going to save this again, team. Now line 1 is gone, but line 3 has an issue. Why? Same thing. Control M is a shortcut key to say that this statement is a comment. It is not necessarily a piece of code that UFT can understand. It is just there for us. So for each of this, we make them comments and we save it. Once I do that and now save, all my errors have disappeared. So here is a code that UFT did. We also tested it and it worked correctly. Now I want to open up something called as an object repository and show you what it does. You remember in the previous thing I showed you something here? Where and what? Where is kind of a address location for the application, like where is the username, how to understand this is username or this is password. So automation testing tools like HP UFT use specific methods to identify them, and those methods basically refer to the information that is out here. This is like a storage section. It's like a telephone directory. It basically uses so small as a font. I don't know why the view is so screwed. Um, it uses information about the application and stores data that using which it can go in and perform specific tasks. So all of this information is out here for it to understand. So the way the UFT program works is very simple. I'm going to quickly take this team. Sorry, I'm taking a little extended session, but I thought it will become important for me to come to a little logical conclusion before day 2 tomorrow. So bear with me for a couple of minutes and we should be good after that. So team, when it comes to the Q&A, I want you to focus more on what we did today. If you have questions about the timings or information about downloads and so on, please write to the team. My team will help you. But let it be more technical. The discussions also should be to what we have done so far. Okay. UFT, as I said, has two components, team. It has your Vbscript and it has the object repository. Then whatever we're doing is on the application under test. Correct? The VB scripts are nothing but what it has to be doing. When we run the code, what happens in this engine is it takes step 1. It comes to object repository and it looks at, hey, where is the object in the application for step 1? It takes that information from here. Then it goes to the application, it searches for that. If it finds it, it will execute that. If it doesn't find it, it will give an error like we got when we ran the test. Then it will go to the next step. Again, it will come to the object repository, get the identity or location for it, like an address, and go and do it. And again, it will say, yes, this is done, and so on till the end of it. So the VB script or the main action that you see under which it is there and the object repository work together to be able to interact with the application. And if you remember in the orientation session, I mentioned that when it comes to descriptive programming, what we do is we basically bypass the object repository and we go straight away from Vbscript to the application, because whatever you see in the object repository is information on how to locate. That information also I can provide it within the script itself. Tomorrow we'll start editing this code a little bit. We'll add a little bit to it. We've done the recording. Now we'll talk about how to change the code. After we change the code, then we will get to writing our own code as we go along. Right, everyone? So that's it for today from my side. If there are quick questions on what we have done, we'll be glad to answer. Please do note, let the questions be relevant to the session that's ongoing and nothing that is coming up in future or about the course or how to join and so on. Please contact at learn@ITeLearn.com for any of those questions. But anything regarding the session, the technical questions to it, let's focus on that. Go ahead, team. I'm going to give a quick minute for you to put any questions so that I can quickly answer and close today's session. And a lot of questions will get answered as we keep going along. Learning Vbscript is mandatory. Absolutely yes. It is totally yes. But it is easy. Very, very simple. There's hardly anything to it. What else, team? Most of the questions will automatically get answered as we keep going along, team, because we will start at a very gradual pace and then we'll keep increasing our um, speed on it. Can you show the object repository for the script? I did, right? If you remember, resources, object repository, and here it is. The font is small, sorry about that, but I'll try and get a higher font for this, the size, so you can see it. This is the object repository. How many days can we learn Vbscript? Vbscript as a programming itself will hardly take 2-3 hours, team. Then you practice for another 10 hours, you'll be very good at it. It's not that complicated. See, you got to understand, team, we are not trying to become a programmer or a developer. You're trying to be a software test engineer, but use specific features from this programming and scripting that can enable you to work with the tools. So you don't have to go all the way. The basic fundamentals, which I will take care as part of the training, are more than sufficient. Are you going to cover Vbscript in your session? Absolutely, yes. Is QTP 11 compatible with IE 11? Pooja, I'm not sure about the combinations because QTP 11 might be more to maybe towards a earlier version of IE, because IE 11 I believe is the latest one, right? But try it, otherwise downgrade and see if it is. It should be ideally. I don't think it will be an issue. So tomorrow, team, use the same link to join, same time, and we'll continue from where we left today. If I download UFT on my laptop, David, typically it says 30 days. In the website, it does mention 60 days, but it gives you a 30 days trial version. So what I would suggest is do not download UFT right away or install it. Just wait till I start day 3 and then you can do it. How many this session will be there? I would do about 15 to 18 sessions in total. So this is day 1. So this way about 18 sessions in total we'll be able to complete. We'll do about 4 to 5 sessions per week, Monday to Friday. And then so it will take between about 4 weeks to complete for us. All right, everyone. Thank you so much for joining. We'll see you back tomorrow. Same link, same time. And yeah, I'll put the video up and you can start watching it on the YouTube channel. Thank you so much. Take care, everyone. Bye then.